She tightened her grip on the microphone. Her fingers were trembling. The room was full. Bright lights, soft music, laughter, people clapping. Everything looked perfect, but Zainab Bello couldn't breathe. Her chest felt tight, because in that moment, she wasn't thinking about the celebration. She was thinking about the call. That call, the one she ignored. Her phone had lit up earlier that evening. Unknown number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. She stared at it. Something felt wrong, but she still looked away. It's nothing, she told herself. I'll call back later. But she didn't know. That was her mistake. Because that one decision would change everything. But wait. Here's the part no one saw coming. Just minutes before she stepped onto that stage, she saw something. Someone. A face she had tried to forget. A past she had buried. And suddenly, everything she built started breaking. Because Zainab Bello was hiding something. Something no one knew. Not her husband. Not her best friend. Not even the people who saw her every single day. And what she was about to do next was something no one expected. Because what happened that night was not just shocking. It was the truth. A truth she had been running from for years. Zainab Bello was the kind of woman people admired from a distance. Calm. Put together. Always in control. She lived in London, working in a well-structured corporate office where everything ran on time, and so did she. Every morning, she woke up at exactly 6 a.m. No alarms needed. It had become a habit, a routine she never broke, because routine kept her safe, predictable, in control. She would prepare breakfast quietly, set the table neatly, and by the time her husband, Usman Bello, came downstairs, everything was ready. Usman loved her for that, not just for what she did, but for how she carried herself. There was something about Zainab, something peaceful, something steady, but also something distant, and he felt it sometimes. In the way she smiled, in the way she avoided certain questions, in the way she would pause, just for a second too long, before answering anything about her past. But he trusted her completely, and Zainab relied on that trust, because, without it, her world would collapse. At work, she was known as the quiet one. Not rude, not unfriendly, just reserved. Her coworker, Farida Musa, was the opposite. Loud, confident, observant, too observant. Farida noticed things others ignored. The way Zainab never talked about family. The way she avoided phone calls in public. The way she sometimes stared at her screen, like she was somewhere else entirely. One afternoon, Farida leaned over her desk, smiling. But there was something behind that smile. Zainab, let me ask you something. Zainab looked up. Calm. Careful. Yes. Farida tilted her head slightly. Do you ever feel like you're hiding something? Zainab let out a soft laugh. Controlled. What kind of question is that? Farida shrugged. Just asking. But Zainab knew. That question was not random. It stayed with her, followed her home, sat with her in silence. And later that night, as she sat alone in the living room, her phone in her hand, she opened a hidden folder. Paused. Her thumb hovered over the screen. And then, she opened it. Pictures, videos, memories. A little girl, smiling, laughing, calling her name. Mummy. Zainab quickly locked the phone, her heart racing, tears forming. No, she whispered. Not now, because that part of her life was not supposed to exist anymore. She had buried it, left it behind, built a new life, a clean life, a safe life. But deep down, she knew something. The past doesn't stay buried forever. And no matter how far you run, it always finds a way back. But she kept telling herself, I'll deal with it later. I have time. But she didn't know. Time was already running out. And very soon, everything she tried to hide would come into the light. But everything was about to change. The first message came in the morning. Zainab had just settled at her desk. Laptop open. Coffee untouched. Everything looked normal. But inside her, something wasn't sitting right. Then, her phone vibrated. She glanced at it casually. Unknown number. Her heart paused. Just for a second. She stared at the screen, debating. Answer. Or ignore. She chose the easier option. Ignore. That was her mistake. Because seconds later, another vibration. This time, a message. She opened it slowly. Her fingers already cold. Are you going to pretend forever? Zainab froze. Her eyes stayed on the screen, reading it again. And again. Her chest tightened. What does that mean? She whispered under her breath. But deep down, she knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. Someone knew something. But she didn't reply. Instead, she locked her phone, placed it face down, and tried to focus. Emails, meetings, numbers, anything to distract herself. But she couldn't, because her mind kept going back to one thing, that message, and what it meant. But she didn't know. This was only the beginning. By midday, another message came in. Short, sharp. Time is running out. Zainab's hands started to shake. This wasn't normal anymore. This wasn't coincidence. This was targeted, personal. She looked around the office. People typing, talking, laughing. Everything felt the same. But to her, nothing was normal anymore. Because suddenly, anyone could be watching. Anyone could know. Her eyes stopped on Farida, across the room, watching her. Or maybe she just imagined it. Farida smiled. Zainab quickly looked away. This was the mistake, because fear was already taking control. That evening, the calls started. Again, and again, and again. Her phone kept ringing. She didn't answer. Not once. Each time it rang, her heart raced faster. Her breathing got heavier. What if it's nothing? What if it's everything? She didn't want to know, because knowing would mean facing it. And she wasn't ready. Not yet. When she got home, Usman noticed immediately. You're quiet today, he said. She forced a smile. I'm just tired. He nodded. Didn't push. That's who he was. Understanding. Patient. And that made it worse. Because he trusted her. And she was lying to him. Every single day. Later that night, her phone buzzed again. This time, she didn't ignore it. She picked it up. Slowly. Carefully. Opened the message. And what she saw made her stop breathing. Someone is asking about you. Her heart dropped. Cold fear. Sharp. Immediate. Because there was only one person who could ask that question. Only one person who had the right. And suddenly, the past wasn't far away anymore. It was here. Close. Too close. But wait, it gets worse. The next day at work, Farida walked straight to her desk. No smile this time. Just curiosity. Sharp and direct. Zainab. She looked up slowly. Yes. Farida leaned in slightly. Lowered her voice. Do you have a child? Everything stopped. The noise. The movement. The air. Zainab's heart slammed against her chest. How did you? She cut herself off. Too late. Farida's eyes changed. Got sharper. Interested. I was just asking, Farida said calmly. But her tone said something else. She knew. Or, at least, she suspected. Zainab forced a laugh. Light. Careful. No, I don't. Lie. Clean. Quick. But inside, everything was breaking. Because now, it wasn't just messages. It wasn't just calls. It was real. It was happening. Right in front of her. And she was losing control. That afternoon, she couldn't focus. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe properly. Her phone sat beside her. Silent. But heavy. Like it was waiting. Watching. And then, one last message came in. She didn't want to open it. But she did. Slowly. Carefully. Almost afraid of what she would see. She's closer than you think. Zainab's vision blurred. Her hands went cold. Because now, there was no doubt. No confusion. No denial. The past had found her. And it wasn't leaving. That was the moment. Everything started falling apart. That night, Zainab didn't sleep. Not even for a second. She lay on the bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Beside her, Usman was asleep, peaceful, breathing slowly, unaware. And that made it worse, because Zainab knew everything she built with him was standing on a lie. Not a small lie, not something simple, but something deep, something real, something she could never explain easily. She turned slightly, looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but he didn't hear her, because he didn't even know. And that was the problem. Her phone vibrated again, soft, but loud enough to shake her. She reached for it slowly, almost like she was afraid to touch it, because every message now felt like a step closer to exposure. She unlocked it, hesitated, then opened it, and froze. It was a picture. A little girl, standing in what looked like a school uniform, hair neatly packed, eyes bright, smile innocent, familiar, too familiar. Zainab's breath caught. Her hands started shaking. "No," she whispered, but she couldn't look away, because she knew that face. She knew that smile. She knew that voice. Even without hearing it, "Mummy." The word echoed in her mind. And just like that, everything she tried to forget came rushing back. But she didn't know. This was only the beginning. Another message followed. "She's asking about you." Silence. Heavy. Painful. Zainab sat up immediately, her heart racing fast now. Too fast. How? How is this possible? Because the truth was, that child wasn't supposed to be here. Not in her present. Not in her new life. She had left that part behind. Years ago. Not because she didn't care, but because she had no choice. At least, that's what she told herself. Her mind drifted back to a time she never spoke about. A different life. A different version of her. Younger. Vulnerable. In love. Or at least, she thought it was love. A relationship that didn't last. A situation that changed everything. And then, a child. A decision. A sacrifice. One she never recovered from. But she buried it. Locked it away. And promised herself she would never look back. And then, silence. Zainab stared at the screen, her chest rising and falling heavily, tears now falling freely, because for the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel it. The guilt, the loss, the regret. She had convinced herself she moved on, that she healed, that she had control. But this proved something else. She never healed. She only hid it. The next morning, everything felt unreal. Zainab moved like a shadow. Quiet. Distant. Disconnected. Usman noticed. Of course he did. He always did. "Zainab, are you okay?" he asked softly. She nodded quickly. Too quickly. "I'm fine." Lie. Again. But this time, it felt heavier. Because now, the truth was right in front of her. And she was still running. At work, Farida was watching her again. Carefully. Closely. Waiting. Like she knew something was about to break. And Zainab felt it. That pressure. That silent tension. Like everything around her was tightening. Then, her phone buzzed again. She looked at it. Slowly. Like she already knew. Another message. She opened it. And this time, her heart stopped completely. "She wants to see you." Zainab's hands dropped to her lap. Weak. Heavy. Because now, there was no more distance. No more delay. No more hiding. This wasn't just messages anymore. This was real. Immediate. And unavoidable. She saw something she couldn't explain, but she could. She just didn't want to accept it. Because accepting it meant everything would change. Her marriage. Her image. Her life. Everything. And, in that moment, Zainab realized something. The past doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock. It doesn't wait. It arrives. And when it does, you either face it or lose everything trying to run from it. She closed her eyes slowly, tears sliding down silently, because deep down, she already knew the truth. This wasn't going away. Not this time. Not ever again. But that wasn't even the worst part. The next morning, Zainab stood in front of the mirror longer than usual.
Dressed.
Ready, but not ready. Her reflection looked the same.
Calm. Put together.
Controlled. But inside, everything was shaking. Because now, she knew something was coming. Something she couldn't stop. As she stepped out,
Her phone buzzed again.
she didn't check it immediately. She already knew. But after a few seconds, she gave in. Unlocked it. Opened the message. Today. Just one word. But it hit her harder than anything else.
Today.
That meant no more time. No more delay. No more later. Everything was happening now. This was the moment everything changed. At work, nothing felt normal anymore. Every sound felt louder. Every whisper felt suspicious. Every glance felt intentional. Zainab tried to stay focused. Typing, reading, responding. But her mind was elsewhere. Farida walked past her desk.
Stopped.
Turned back. You look nervous today, she said. Zainab forced a small smile. I'm fine. Farida didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched her. Then slowly, she leaned closer. And whispered, secrets don't stay hidden forever. Zainab's heart dropped. Instantly. Because that wasn't a guess. That wasn't a joke. That was a message.
Clear. Direct.
Dangerous. But she didn't know. Farida knew more than she was showing. The rest of the day dragged. Slow. Heavy. Painful. Every minute felt like an hour. Because Zainab wasn't just waiting anymore. She was counting down. To something she couldn't control. Then, the reminder popped up on her phone. Company dinner, 7 p.m. Her chest tightened. Because she remembered. This wasn't just any event. It was important. Big. Everyone would be there.
Colleagues.
Managers. Executives. And Usman. He had insisted on coming. Said he wanted to support her. To celebrate her. Because she was being recognized that night. Award.
Speech. Spotlight.
Everything perfect. Everything public. And now, everything at risk. This is where everything changed. By evening, the hall was already full.
Soft lights.
Elegant setting. People dressed beautifully. Smiling.
Talking.
Living in a moment Zainab couldn't feel. She walked in slowly. Her steps careful. Measured. Her eyes scanning the room. Searching. For something. Or someone. And then, she saw Farida. Standing near a group. Watching her. Not smiling. Just observing. Like she was waiting for something. Or someone. Zainab looked away quickly. Her heart beating faster now. Because something felt wrong. Too many eyes. Too much tension. Too much silence behind the noise. Then, Usman walked up to her. Smiling warmly. You look beautiful, he said. She forced a smile. Thank you. He held her hand. Gently. You seem tense, he added. I'm okay, she replied. But her voice wasn't steady. And he noticed. But before he could ask anything, the host took the stage. Announcing her name. Applause filled the room. Please welcome, Zainab Bello. Her moment. Her spotlight. Her perfect image. She started walking forward. Step by step. Slow. Heavy. Her heart pounding louder with each step. Because, deep down, she felt it. Something was about to happen. Something she couldn't stop. And then, she saw it. Near the entrance. A small figure. Standing quietly. Holding an older woman's hand. Zainab froze. Mid-step. Her breath caught instantly. Because she recognized that face. No doubt. No confusion. No denial. It was her. The little girl. What happened next, no one was prepared for. The room kept clapping. People smiling. Unaware. But Zainab couldn't move.
Couldn't think.
Couldn't breathe. Because in that moment, her past wasn't just close anymore. It was right there. In front of everyone. Farida watched from across the room. Arms folded. Eyes sharp. Because now, everything was about to unfold. And she knew it. Zainab looked at the child again. And something inside her broke. Completely. Because this wasn't just fear anymore. This wasn't just exposure. This was reality. standing in front of her, waiting. And suddenly, she understood something. She had two choices: run again, or finally, face the truth. The microphone was waiting. The stage was set. The moment had arrived. And what she did next changed everything. The microphone was in her hand.
Cold. Heavy.
Zainab stood on the stage, lights shining directly on her face. The room was quiet now, waiting, expecting, smiling. But she couldn't see any of it clearly, because her eyes were locked on one thing: the child, standing near the entrance, looking at her, not confused, not afraid, just waiting. Her heart pounded hard, too hard, her chest rising fast.
She tried to speak,
but nothing came out. Her lips moved, but no sound. And then, silence. The host shifted slightly. People in the audience exchanged looks. Some laughed softly, thinking she was nervous. But this wasn't nerves. This was something else. Something deeper. Something breaking. Zainab tightened her grip on the microphone, her fingers trembling. Her eyes slowly moved from the child to Usman. He was smiling at first.
Proud.
Encouraging. But then, he noticed her face. The fear. The tears building. And his smile faded. Zainab, he whispered from his seat. That was it. That moment. That look. It broke her. She took a deep breath.
Shaky.
Unsteady. And finally,
she spoke.
My name is Zainab Bello. Her voice cracked.
Soft.
Barely holding together. The room leaned in, listening. And tonight, she paused, her throat tightening. I was supposed to celebrate something. A few people nodded, smiling, still unaware. But I can't. Silence. Instant.
Heavy.
Because there is something I've been hiding. Murmurs started. Confused whispers. People shifting in their seats. Usman sat up straight now, alert, focused, because something was wrong, very wrong. Zainab's eyes filled with tears. She looked at him, directly. I'm sorry, she said softly. And that was when his heart dropped, because he had never seen her like this. Never. Then, she turned slightly, facing the room again. But her eyes found the child. Again. And she couldn't look away. That call I ignored earlier, she swallowed hard, was not a mistake.
Pause.
Silence. No one moved. It was her. Confusion spread instantly. What does she mean?
Who?
What is happening? Zainab took another shaky breath, her voice breaking completely now. I have a daughter. The room froze.
Completely.
Like time stopped. Usman stood up immediately. What? His voice cut through the silence. Sharp. Unbelieving. Zainab closed her eyes briefly, tears falling freely now. I have a daughter, she repeated. She's been alive all this time.
Shock.
Pure shock. People whispering.
Turning.
Looking at each other. Trying to understand. Usman stepped forward slowly, his face pale.
Confused. Hurt.
You're lying, he said quietly. But even as he said it, he knew she wasn't. Zainab shook her head slowly. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid. Afraid of what? He asked, his voice breaking now. Afraid of losing you. Silence again. Heavy. Painful. Then, something happened. Something no one expected. The older woman near the entrance gently nudged the child forward. And the little girl
walked,
step by step, into the room. Gasps filled the air, because now, it wasn't just words. It was real, visible, undeniable. Zainab dropped the microphone. It hit the floor softly, but no one noticed, because all eyes were on the child. She stopped a few steps away from the stage, looking up, straight at Zainab. And in a small, soft voice, she said, Mummy. That was it. Zainab broke down completely, falling to her knees, crying, years of pain,
guilt,
regret, all pouring out at once. This was the truth, the one she hid, the one she ran from, the one she thought would destroy everything. I didn't leave her because I didn't love her, Zainab cried. I left because I had nothing. I couldn't take care of her. I thought I was protecting her. Her voice cracked deeper. I thought I would come back for her. But life changed, everything changed, and I was too ashamed. The room was silent again. But this time, not from shock. From emotion. Usman stood still, frozen, trying to process everything. The lies, the truth, the years. Zainab looked at him again, broken. I was going to tell you, one day, but that day never came. She looked back at the child, tears streaming endlessly. I'm so sorry. And in that moment, everything changed forever. The room stayed silent. No one moved. No one spoke. It was like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for what would happen next. Zainab was still on her knees,
Crying.
broken, her shoulders shaking, her hands weak, because in that moment, she had nothing left to hide. No more lies, no more control, just truth.
Raw.
Painful, real. The little girl stood there quietly, looking at her, not confused, not angry, just watching, like she had been waiting for this moment, for a long time. And then, Zainab slowly lifted her head. Their eyes met, and something shifted, not fear,
Not shame.
but recognition, connection, something deeper than words. She tried to speak, but her voice failed, again. So instead, she reached out her hand, shaking, uncertain, like she wasn't sure she deserved to. The child hesitated, just for a second. Then, she stepped forward, closer, closer, and placed her small hand into Zainab's. That touch was everything. Zainab broke down again. But this time, it wasn't just pain. It was release. Years of holding back. Years of silence. All gone in one moment. I'm here now, she whispered. I'm not going anywhere again. But behind her, Usman was still standing. Silent. Still. Processing. This was the moment that could break everything, or rebuild it. Zainab slowly turned, still holding the child's hand. Her eyes met his, filled with fear, uncertainty, hope. I'm sorry, she said again.
Soft.
Barely audible. Usman didn't respond immediately.
He just stood there.
Looking at her, then at the child, then back at her. His mind was racing. The betrayal, the secrecy, the years of not knowing. It hurt, deeply. But then, he saw something else. Not the lie, not the past, but the present. He saw a woman, who was no longer hiding, who had just risked everything to tell the truth. And he saw a child, innocent, uninvolved, standing in the middle of it all. Usman took a step forward, then another. The room watched, waiting.
He stopped in front of them.
Close enough now. Close enough to feel everything. Zainab held her breath, because this was the moment that would decide everything. You should have told me, he said quietly. Her heart dropped, because she heard the pain in his voice. But then,
He continued.
we could have faced it together. Tears fell harder from her eyes, because she didn't expect that. Not this. Usman looked down at the child. His expression softened, just slightly. What's your name? He asked gently. The little girl looked up.
Calm. Soft.
Amina. Silence. Then, something changed. Usman knelt down slowly, bringing himself to her level. Not as a stranger, not as an outsider, but as someone trying. Amina, he repeated softly. Then he looked back at Zainab. We'll figure this out. That was it. Simple, but powerful. Zainab covered her mouth, crying deeply now, because she expected anger, rejection,
Loss.
but instead, she got something else, something stronger. Acceptance. The room slowly began to breathe again, people wiping their eyes, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others smiling softly, because what they just witnessed was not just a confession, it was transformation. Farida stood in the background, quiet now, her arms no longer folded, her expression unreadable. Because even she didn't expect this ending. Days passed, then weeks. Life didn't magically become perfect. There were conversations, difficult ones, long nights,
Tears.
silence, healing. But one thing changed completely. Zainab stopped hiding. No more secrets, no more fear, no more running. She picked up calls. She answered questions. She faced her past. And slowly, her life became real. Not perfect, but honest. Amina became part of their home, not as a secret, but as family. And Usman learned something too. That love is not just about what you know, but what you choose to accept. And Zainab finally understood something she had been running from for years. The truth doesn't destroy you. Hiding it does. But the lesson stayed. Sometimes, the truth you're afraid to say is the one that sets you free. And sometimes, the people you think you'll lose are the ones who stay. So tell me, if you were Zainab, would you have kept the secret or told the truth?